Welcome to Grammar Lesson 1.2, Describing Nouns Using Numbers and Colors. Okay, starting off with the numbers numbers 0 to 15 are just kind of numbers that you have to memorize. There's not really a special pattern that they follow. I'm going to go ahead and say each of the numbers, and you can feel free to repeat after me for pronunciation practice. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Now on the next few numbers, 16 through 19, we see a pattern that begins. 16 in Spanish is pronounced 10 y 6. Literally what we're saying is 10 and 6. So then 17, we're saying 17, 10 and 7. 18, 18, 10 and 8. 19, 19, 10 and 9. Now instead of using these three little words for each of those numbers, typically we will combine those three little words into one larger word. To do so, you would change the Z in 10 to a C, change the Y, remember the Y means the and, change that to an I, and then combine all of the words as in 19. So this is typically what you would see for numbers 16 through 19. 16, 17, 18, 19. Número 20, the next number, 20, is just one you have to remember, and then we start the pattern over again. So to say 21, it's like we're saying 20 y uno, 20 and 1. Then we continue, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30 is 30. Then the same pattern starts over again in the 30s. So you would say 31, 32, 33, and this is how the pattern continues all the way up through the numbers. Okay, something you need to remember when you're using a number before a noun, if it is singular, so if you only have one of something, instead of saying uno, we shorten that to un if it's masculine, and una if it's feminine. You should recognize these words from the indefinite article exercises we did last time. And in those, we talked about how un or una can mean a or an, but you also know that means one. The same is true if you're using a number that ends in a 1. So for example, the number 21, if that number is describing a masculine noun, then instead of saying 21, we would say 21. For example, 21 boys, 21 chicos. If it's describing a feminine noun, we use 21, 21 chicas. And this only applies if the number ends with a 1. A few keywords that we can use to help us show quantity are cuánto, which means how much. You might ask cuánto dinero, how much, or cuánto cuesta, how much does it cost? Another common phrase we'll use is cuántos or cuántas, which means how many. If you're asking how many and you're referring to a group of masculine nouns, then you would use cuántos, like pencils, cuántos lápices. If you're asking how many and the object you're asking about happens to be feminine, like how many chairs, then you would say cuántas sillas. Another common term we use is the word hay. Hay means there is or there are. Let's practice using these phrases. In the picture on the left, you might ask, ¿Cuántos niños hay? How many children are there? The response would be, hay 5 niños, which means there are 5 children. In the picture on the right, if you wanted to ask, are there men in the photo? Then you would say, ¿Hay hombres en la fotografía? The response could be, hay 2 mujeres, pero no hay hombres. There are 2 women, but there are no men. So to say no, there are not, you just put a no in front of the word I. Okay, moving on to the colors. Some of the most common colors that we use in the Spanish language are rojo, anaranjado, amarillo, verde, azul, morado. That's supposed to be purple. There are other words we use for these colors too, just like in English. There's 100 different ways to say blue, but these are the most basic words. Some of the other popular colors that you should know are negro, which is black, blanco, for white, café, which is brown, gris, for gray, rosado, for pink. Okay, now we know that the colors are adjectives. An adjective, remember, is any word that describes a noun. So when you're using adjectives with nouns, there are 3 rules you have to follow. Number 1, the adjective comes after the noun, so it follows the noun instead of coming before it. Number 2, the adjective and the noun must match in number. That means that if the noun is plural, the adjective is plural. If the noun is singular, the adjective is singular. And the third rule, they must match in gender. So if the noun is masculine, then your adjective will also show the masculine ending. If your noun is feminine, then the adjective will also show the feminine ending. Here's an example. In English, we call this the White House. In Spanish, however, we would flip those 2 words around because the adjective comes after the noun. So instead of called white house, which in Spanish we would say blanca casa, we switch those around. So it's called casa blanca. And that would be the singular feminine adjective, or singular feminine way to say white with casa, because casa is singular and feminine. If we had more than one, then we would say casas blancas, so that's showing the plural form. Let's practice a little bit more with this. In this picture, we have yellow books, and there are 18 of them. So we would say 18 libros amarillos. Number, noun, adjective. Here we only have one red shirt. Shirt is camisa, which is feminine, so we would say una camisa roja. Number, noun, adjective. Remember this order. Here we have 6 dresses, and the word for dress is vestido, which is masculine. So even though it may be a woman wearing the dresses, it's still considered a masculine noun. So to say that we have 6 of them, we would say 6 vestidos rosados. Remember again, the order is number, noun, adjective. Some adjectives do not change in the ending. They don't end with an O or an A. So in those examples, like verde, the color green, you just have to add the S to make it plural. You don't have to do anything else to the vowel at the end of the word. So to say 2 green crayons, we would say dos crayones verdes. Even though crayon is masculine, we didn't have to change the word verde.